Good evening. I'd like to call to order the June 24th meeting of the Finance Committee. Our first agenda item is accepting the minutes for April 8th.
I have a question about that. I haven't had a chance to review them. Did they just get uploaded yesterday? Yes. Okay. Is there any chance we can put that off? Because, I mean, I'm struggling here. I'm trying to read them. Put them off until, I don't know, November or whenever it is we meet again.
All right, is there any objection? Do we need a motion to do that, or can we,
No, I don't think you need a motion to do that. You can
okay, just,
not take any action on them if you don't think you're ready to do so.
all right, so I have no problem deferring, so we'll defer accepting of the meeting minutes until our next meeting. So then we'll go on to agenda item number 3, which is the town manager's review, report. And I guess there's some reserve fund transfers, Mr. Mizikar?
Yeah, so we do have a series of reserve fund transfers here, and Chief Ona's here this evening with us to review some of the challenges the fire department has. I just want to speak globally. I know it hasn't been that long, and everyone remembers the year that we've had. So this is a lot more reserve fund use than we have historically had. There'll only be about $3,000 left at the end of the night if these transfers were approved, and that's extraordinary for this account. And I know I'm telling you something that you already know. I've looked at each and every one of the line items, without exception. I mean, some of the fire department direct salary lines went up, but associated line items with them didn't. But all the other line items that are having a challenge at the end of the year were reduced year over year. Obviously, we had COVID-19 and revenue reductions as we went into fiscal year '21, and it kind of had an impact. So we definitely are relying more upon the reserve fund than we have in any previous year. I'm happy to go into any level of detail about any of the particular accounts that you may have questions about. But just, if I could, turn it over to the chief just for him to provide a quick summary of the fire department reserve fund request this evening.
All right, thank you.
Okay, first I'd like to just, I made notes on 3 areas that we were hit with unusually high expenses for the year. The first of which is we have an educational incentive. So during the COVID year, we try to predict how many guys are going to get their degrees and then earn their incentive. Well, one of the opportunities the firefighters had during this year was to take extra classes and, schooling from home because their kids weren't involved in any activities or anything like that. So it accelerated how fast they got their degrees, and a lot of the firefighters were doubling and tripling up on their education. And we underestimated by about $30,000, technically $28,500, people that we weren't expecting to get their degrees that basically accelerated their learning to the point that they could earn all these incentives for their education. The second big expense we had, roughly $25,000, we had one firefighter who sustained a serious injury he was getting ready to go out on a call, and he was hustling out to the truck and tripped and fell. And he's had a number of surgeries and on his wrist and back, and we're still waiting to see if he'll ever be able to come back to work. But that was roughly $25,000 in overtime to fill his position, and that's been he's been out almost a year now. So, and the last part we had was for the COVID sick leave. We had 7 firefighters that did come down with COVID. They all recovered fine, but they were all subject to quarantine rules. And as a multiplier effect, anyone they were in close contact with, we had to send home and quarantine too. So that led to another $24,000 in sick leave, just related to COVID-19. Because you can't just send the one guy home that was sick if he's been in the station with 2 or 3 or 4 other guys the whole day. We had to send them all home and have them all tested and everything, so that basically covers all the expenses, major expenses that were unusual for this year.
Any questions? So I have a question on the educational incentive. I mean, I think it's great that people are working to improve themselves. I guess the question that I do have, though, I know, like, for, if you're working and then you get, you have that incentive to take classes and they'll pay you X amount per year, but only X amount per year. So my question really is it strictly a blank check? Because we had the situation where, as you said, you had a bunch of accelerated education that was unexpected. So I'm wondering if it's a complete blank check, if we could run into this in the future. I understand that the pandemic was different circumstances, but is there any throttle on this?
So the education incentive is part of the collective bargaining agreement, and it's a percentage increase on their base wages. And we have limited that to fire science degrees. So, basically, bachelor's, associates, bachelor's, or master's drive this. So it's not an unlimited amount, but unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, so we have more firefighters coming on with fire science degrees or nearing fire science degrees because it's much more common, and we have a younger fire department overall because of the, the recent hirings that we've done in retirement. So I think this is a bit of an ebb,
Okay.
now is kind of built into the base.
Okay, so yeah, so just as a follow-up for clarification then, so now I have my fire science degree. It's not that I can continue taking classes and get more, I've got what I'm gonna get.
Yeah, it
and
maxes
it's-
out
okay.
at a certain level, yeah.
Well,
Thank you. So, as a general reserve fund concept, we try to budget ahead of time, and then, crazy things happen, and that's what the reserve fund is for, is to handle the crazy things, or just the unexpected.
Yeah.
And this, obviously, COVID is the granddaddy of the unexpected. And I'm glad to see that we could manage this and the 5 other things on our agenda tonight under the reserve fund. And clearly, all 3 things that you're requesting, Jim, are COVID-related. They're not just extraordinary, they seem to all be COVID directly or indirectly. The folks who accelerated their education,
Yeah.
that's not COVID, but hey,
It was influenced by,
it was influenced. So, but does that mean that those educational expenses, we can expect those to be fewer going forward because some of those guys who would have done it next year or the year after have already done it this year?
yes.
Okay. I don't want to budget differently.
Yep.
I'm happy to see that amount expire at the end of the year, at the end of next year. But I'd be curious to see if that acceleration of this one thing
Well,
leads to that.
one of the other things, just to give an example, I've been on the job 29 years now. When I came on the job, there were only 2 other people that had a college degree. Now, I think I've got 7 or 8 guys on the job that have master's degrees besides myself. The level of education on the firefighters that we hire now compared to 25 years ago is not comparable at all. Almost every single guy, probably over 80% of the guys have some type of a degree. And honestly, the ones that don't have degrees usually went to technical schools and they, have other skills, or they've just come out of the military and then they have the GI Bill. That encourages them to get their educations as well, so.
I have one other question. I'm gonna tip into this gingerly because I don't want to get into any, HIPAA violations. But obviously, we had a situation where there was a virus that could be spread, and certainly could be spread by people in close proximity and living in quarters, which our firefighters is kind of a unique setup. My question is, have we required the firefighters to be vaccinated? Can we require them? Obviously, there's a cost impact if they're not vaccinated. Granted, you can still get COVID if you're vaccinated, but hopefully, the chances are reduced. So,
So-
given the fact that this has turned into, as you say, when one person gets COVID, that the other people need to be quarantined, it does have a financial impact, and that is the reason why I'm asking the question. I'm not trying to
Yep.
violate anybody's personal space.
So, we have not required any town employee to get vaccinated. We do require non-vaccinated individuals while working to wear masks. But that being said, we have over 95% of firefighters are vaccinated.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that.
A couple of the ones that didn't, had the virus and didn't feel like it was necessary, and there's medical information that would back that says it's not necessary for them to get it. And there's another that had a contraindication in his own medical history
Okay.
that he chose not to do it,
All right.
so.
Thank you. Yeah, as I said, I'm not trying to pry, but obviously, so, but that's very good information. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, guys.
So would you, thanks, Chief. Would you like me to walk through the other ones in a little more detail?
Yes, please.
Would you like to take the fire one out of order, just so that way Jim can be
Oh,
done?
yes, yeah, why don't we do that?
I move that we approve the reserve fund transfer request under fire department salaries and wages, which on our agenda is 3A3.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it passes unanimously. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you very much and for your continued support.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank
Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you,
All right, have a
Chief.
good night. Thank you, Mark.
Just want to make sure I have the right one. So the items, 3I, is it? The first one in your list, which is the third request for the fiscal year, is a request for the treasurer office's operating support for professional services in the amount of $13,000. We had budgeted additional funds in the personnel block within the budget. And given challenges of COVID and other operational changes throughout the year, we ended up hiring a consultant to provide support services to the office for benefits administration. That's what the employee was slated to do for part-time, but we decided to contract it out. So since we can't intermingle between the two, we're requesting this $13,000 to cover the cost of that. This also covers some unforeseen banking fees, which we actually reduced down to $29,000 in the budget.
When did these come up? You know, we're days away from the end of the fiscal year.
Yeah.
Are these recent developments, or is this stuff that got put off and it can stand a little bit of time?
Yeah, so, I mean, the total departments are not overdrawn, so these happened in some ways like throughout the course of the year. Mainly, well, I can't remember the last time we did reserve fund transfers, but I want to say, like, we hired the consultant in January. But due to the bank fees and the total cost of the consultant, we've overrun the account.
Okay.
I don't know if that.
Yeah, can you explain the bank fees?
Yeah, sure. So we do get some ACH charges from some of our banks, and we are trying to work with them to limit them. And we've been very clear with one of our major banks that holds our payroll account that, you know, if there's continued fees, that we would move away from them.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
How much were the banking fees out of this 13,000?
I can tell you that.
Yeah, we shouldn't have to be paying
No.
fees to pay our employees. That
Exactly.
just seems a little ass backwards.
That spreadsheet that you sent me.
I mean, you know, I've got a lot of questions about the banking fees that we have to deal with, like when residents are paying, you know, some accounts online.
from this morning.
it's saving us the money because you don't have to come in and deliver a check, but, you know, that's a different problem for a different day.
I'm just trying to pull up my details.
I'm just stalling while you do that.
Did you have another question? Did you have a question?
It was related to the
Banking.
banking fees, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, no problem. I was just wondering why lower interest rates and more fees.
Yeah. Yeah, yes, couldn't figure that out.
Alex is gonna try to look up the account in Munis. I don't have it in my summary sheet, I'm sorry.
Okay.
We'll get it to you, or we'll get it before the end of the meeting if we
Okay,
can
great.
move on.
So I move that we approve.
Well, no, I want, no.
wanna hold this?
I wanna hold this one, I wanna,
Okay.
I just like to hold this until we get that information, so why don't we just
Move to the
on?
next.
Yeah,
So the next request is for $1,775 for a separate appropriation line item within the treasurer collector's office for tax title accounts. Tax title accounts need to be moved at least within 2 years of delinquency in order to preserve the town's position. And we budgeted $5,800, which was only a couple $100 less than the previous year, but there was more delinquencies than we anticipated, and in order to preserve the town's first position in a right to those properties, we expended the $1,775 more to cover those filing fees.
Okay, how are we doing disposing of these properties that we're taking title to?
So this is just recording at the Registry of Deeds that the tax title claim of the town. This isn't the final foreclosure process. This is the process that often, with the actual claim on the deed, when individuals come in and start to make payment plans. So we get a higher amount of payments once we do this formal taking, or formal claim.
Sure, but, you know, we stay up, we maintain our priority at or near the top of the list.
Yeah.
But you said we've had a unpredicted level of delinquencies.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised, considering. But when there have been takings at the end,
Yep.
how have we been doing then turning those over and disposing of those properties?
Yeah, so it's very few properties, honestly, that we do end up taking, because most people do come in and get on payment plans, and the Board of Selectmen's policy with regards to, tax taking has been rather liberal, especially when it's owner-occupied housing. We don't try to take that. So with the commercial properties, you'll remember that we disposed of 3 properties. I think in the winter of 2019, wasn't 2020, I know that, where we sold the former Allen Funeral Home, a parcel on Route 9, and a small parcel off of Maple Avenue, which was a very, almost $800,000 in revenue that we received from the sale of those 3 properties, which came through as free cash then at the end of fiscal year 20.
questions? So, I guess, what type of impact are these unexpected number of delinquencies having on our revenue?
So these filings were for properties that were delinquent for fiscal year 2018. Again,
Okay.
we needed to move them, we needed to preserve our position prior to the end of 2020. So it was primarily old delinquencies.
Okay.
Yep.
So, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So that isn't due to COVID then? This is, so, do you have any idea what kind of impact we're gonna see then? I mean-
Our tax collection rate remains very high, over 98% of total anticipated tax, as we near the end of the fiscal year, so, we remain, it's only, a few properties that, end up, getting moved into tax title, so, we didn't see a major change in that.
So this is, I mean, I know it's only $1,700, but I'm trying to understand, this is $1,700 that's over what you had budgeted, but
Yep.
what type of number are we looking at for?
That'd be like about 10 properties, 10 additional properties, so we spent about $7,000 in total, about, $150, $200 per filing.
So does that filing fee get added on to?
It does.
Okay,
It's
good.
recoverable in the end.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, great.
And this is just a process that the town council handles in filing, or is this the treasurer's office does that?
We have special tax title counsel that does it, yep.
Okay, thank you.
So does that, sorry, just to keep going here, so if we have special counsel that covers that, does that 1,700 include what we paid town council to take these actions?
No, it doesn't. That's paid out of the general
Okay.
council fund.
Okay.
I move that we approve this transfer request of $1,775.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, passes unanimously.
So if you'd like, we could go, we have
You do? Okay.
we've paid $11,700 in banking fees for the fiscal year.
Wow. So it's not 11,000 out of this 13,000, is
That's
it?
correct. No,
It
it's
is.
not.
It's not.
It's
Okay.
not. So that's the total deficit that line item is in. There was $29,000 in it. 11,000 is banking fees. There's other miscellaneous fees that come out of it, but the other big item is the contract for benefits administration consulting support.
So the 11,000 for banking fees, is that all with our payroll or?
It is, yeah, with our Century Bank account.
So you're already putting the hammer down on them anyways?
Yes, we
so-
are. Yep.
I think if that bank is watching, and I'm sure they are,
I'm sure.
that the finance committee agrees with your hammering.
Thank you.
Right.
This.
I think a
And
sledgehammer.
I also move that we approve the 13,000 transfer request to treasurer's office, operating support, professional services.
Second.
All right, it's been moved in second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it passes unanimously. All right, so then that takes us to the street lighting.
Yep, so this is a, street lighting, as you know, is a single line item budget within, single line item within the budget. And we're short $151, total for the fiscal year. It's a $115,000 line item.
Mark?
Why? I mean,
Just
I don't just mean, hey, this is trivial.
Yeah.
It is, it's a very small percentage, but
more,
this can't be COVID related.
no, more than likely, this is the addition of a street light that the Board of Selectmen approved throughout the course of the year, maybe early on, that, wasn't anticipated.
And do we have enough budgeted for next year then?
Yeah, we do.
Is it the same budget as this past year?
It's, I don't know if it's.
I hope it's at least $151 more.
If not, we'll fix it in the fall.
So, is this money for the electricity that runs the lights, or is it for purchasing the pole? What?
No, yeah, it's the electricity usage for the street light.
Okay, all right. Any other questions?
Move that we approve this transfer request of $151 to the category of utility electricity.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved in second to approve the transfer. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it passes unanimously. All right, that takes us then to your printing, postage, and stationery account.
Yeah, this one's tough to deal with. This is a big COVID impact. You'll recall, we obviously went remote and had no on-site activities within the building, increased our outgoing mailing just in general. But then we were required to do additional things for elections. So we mailed out ballots to each and every voter for the presidential election, the presidential primary election during this fiscal year, and then the override ballot question in the spring. We did decrease this line item year over year by about 7,000, so that certainly compounded it. But, a mailing to all voters in town is, over 20,000 pieces of mail, so definitely wasn't anticipated.
Mark?
I don't know going forward what we can anticipate both on this line item, and not to mention, mailing ballots, those rules are still in flux. I understand that. But do we have the cushion in fiscal year '22 for these kinds of expenses?
I'm gonna take a quick look.
And while you're doing that, a follow-up is, do we have any COVID relief funds from the state or the feds on that kind of, on these kinds of costs?
Yeah, that seems reasonable.
Or did they get
Not that
absorbed
we saw
elsewhere?
that fit into any categories. We have tried to handle that through our CARES Act funding the best that we could. We run the risk of putting it through and then not getting reimbursement. We felt this was the safest way to approach this particular expense. And the same, obviously, with the COVID backfill and the sick leave with the fire department that we've already talked about. So some leave was reimbursable through the CARES Act and others wasn't.
Well, wasn't there election relief from the state for,
For wages,
it was only wages, not
yeah,
paper, okay, not
it's
mailing.
about $7,000.
I had a question, Boston Globe invoices,
So the Boston Globe is our tax bill. They produce tax bills and water and sewer bills for us.
oh,
Globe Direct,
really?
yeah,
Okay,
they're a printing company.
okay. What am I, that's in your drive,
That's what I was gonna say.
so, okay, all right, good. So we're not like reading the paper? No, I didn't think so. I didn't know if it was some sort of advertisement or something, no, so, okay,
Yep, they're tax bill printers
okay.
and mailers.
All right, any other questions? Mark?
I move that we approve this request for $45,000 in the category operating support, print, postage, and stationery.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved in second to approve this transfer. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. All right, and then the general insurance account.
I printed it.
They're smart.
Yeah, the general insurance account has been a challenge for us this year. We did a prior reserve fund for premium that was higher than we put in the final budget, again, trying to have as low as budget as possible. But this cost is related to an audit of our workers' compensation insurance. There's an annual audit that's conducted at the beginning of the year. We estimate total wages in various categories, and then we're charged, maybe 25 cents per employee or whatever the number is, depending on their wage category. After the audit and review of the total wages and what premium we paid, it was found that we had to provide additional funding. So we're requesting $25,000 to cover the cost of our workers' compensation insurance post-audit.
Any questions? Mark?
Yeah, so how did we end up so short? And are we gonna end up, how are we doing budgeting?
Yep.
I understand budgeting is a science, but there's a little art to it too.
Yep.
And, we can't always hit it perfectly, but every time we have a reserve fund request, I do like to say, see how it's going and,
Yep.
How much we can anticipate it.
Yeah, so I do have some general concerns about this line item, general insurance for fiscal year 2022. I do think we're gonna have to make an adjustment for the fall. This being one of the reasons for it, and then we'll be bringing Beal on later this fall, and I'm not sure that our estimate was sufficient to cover the full fiscal year. So that's just a budgeting mistake as we were going through the spring. And building the budget, so, this, audit, when was the audit conducted, Alex? When were we
It's
made aware of?
conducted in the prior fiscal year.
So, yeah, so this is for actually FY 20's, figures were looked at during, the spring of this year for FY 21, within FY 21. So, I'm gonna have to look at this part of the budget as well. I am a little concerned about this one. The other one's not so much, but this one, yes.
I'm concerned about what you said about Beal.
Yep.
So, and I understand again,
Yep,
but, so we may see some changes in our budget at our fall unofficial
yes,
annual town meeting?
yep,
Okay,
yep. We used a flat line, projection increase, for the general insurance budget, which these things fall under, with additional funding on top of that. So we used our best premium escalator that we could, and additional funding for Beal, but I just don't think it's gonna be enough at the preliminary look. We will be taking over and adding insurance on that property, near, about August first. So it's still under builder's risk, with the general contractor.
and is the school department also lined up to cover their cost as budgeted?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I don't know of any anomalies there, yeah.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I move that we approve this request for $25,000 under the category operating support general insurance.
Second.
It's been moved in second to approve this transfer. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None, it passes unanimously. So I guess I do want to make kind of an overarching statement. I do think that obviously the process, Kevin, that you've set up is working, because I do appreciate the fact that you have looked at the budgets and you're doing the best job as you can to have them as close as possible, so we're not looking at huge turnbacks, which I always felt was, lost opportunity, because, so, and this is why we do have the reserve funds. Obviously, you're doing the right thing by saying, okay, this general insurance is of concern, so maybe I need to up that. But otherwise, this process is working as designed. And nobody could have guessed with COVID. If you could, you'd be a millionaire. So, but anyways, I just want to say that. It's working as it should, and so I appreciate the approach that you're taking to the budgets.
Thank you. It's a little too tight for me, but I know, it was an extraordinary year, so, yep.
All right, so next on there is number B, status of the fiscal year 2021 revenues and charges.
Yep. So I just wanted to provide general update. Obviously, we went through a lot of, well, the accounts that we are having significant challenges with. I think across the board, you will see turnbacks lower than, we've seen in previous years. So, but no other real challenges once we get, beyond the end of the fiscal year. With regards to local receipts, we have achieved our budget amount and we've exceeded it. However, we're through, I have data through about June 15th, and we are lagging where we were in the previous year. So, obviously having the pandemic with us for the entire year has had a significant disruptive effect upon, those more elastic aspects of our revenue. The biggest challenge that we have out of, all of those roughly 30 different line items that we track for local receipts is motor vehicle excise. We've only collected about 90% of what we budgeted for. We do have the final round of motor vehicle excise tax commitment is due June 28th, so hopefully we can get a little bit closer to that. But as we,
May I ask,
Sure.
are we 90% of collecting what's owed to us, or basically it's down because people didn't buy new cars?
correct,
Okay.
yes, yeah, so.
That should change. I understand that the auto market is, although it's
you can
hard to
get
get
one,
them.
yeah.
But I guess there's pent-up demand, so.
Yeah,
but-
exactly.
Okay.
So as of right now, still in a, I think enviable position, all things considered, where we've collected about 8% over budget, which is, but it's, only about $865,000 more than we anticipated. So it will go up because, again, we only have limited data through the 15th of the month. We haven't received our state aid yet, which normally comes in after the, like, one of the final days of the month, so our kind of shining star, which I think is good news for us on the horizon, is our licenses and permits, which we budgeted about $870,000, and we've collected 1.7 million, so double. So obviously a lot of building activity, both with the major Edgemere Drive-In redevelopment project, and then just a lot of investments in individual homes, things like that, so.
How about the marijuana?
Sure.
That's come on.
It has come on, so that's part of the quarterly, funding from the state, our state aid. But year-to-date, we've collected, so 3 of the 4 quarters, $105,000.
I don't see, I don't think you put a report to this effect, on this
I
stuff.
didn't know.
Do you have something you can
Yep.
send us or
I
put into
will.
the?
Yep, I'll drop it
Okay.
in the drive for you.
I'd love to see that,
Yep.
thank you.
Of course.
Vikram?
So Kevin, it's good to hear about the license and building, we're exceeding expectations. Is that making up for the shortfall that you're seeing in?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it really is. Yeah, so again, like, we are 800,000 to the good.
Okay.
But, that one's really driving a lot of it, without that really strong category, and, we would, be struggling.
Thank you.
But on the flip side, if everybody's doing the home renovations now, what type of impact will that have in the future? And, I mean, maybe.
So it'll have a general overall good pressure on new growth, right? Because these things will be captured in our fiscal year 22 new growth, which means it should be stronger than we, estimated in the spring.
Are you, okay,
But I think the good news is although it's double what we anticipated, but, we didn't estimate for FY 22 that we were gonna receive double, we're,
Right.
pretty close to, budgeting about the same that we did, from fiscal year 22 as 21, so I don't see it as a risk, really.
but I guess what I'm getting at is if I went ahead and renovated my bathroom and needed to get permits and licensing, I mean, I'm not gonna do that. A lot of people did it while they were home and had the time to do it. Is that going to be, are we going to see a depression in licenses and fees going forward that we should take into consideration?
I'm just trying to compare the two.
I think that's a good question.
So, for fiscal year 21, we've collected year-to-date 1,696,000. In fiscal year 22, I've anticipated 847,000. So I don't think it's gonna have that big of an impact. If we had been budgeted closer to 1.5 million, I would say, yeah, we were geniuses, one, and two, we're gonna have a shortfall the following year. But I think because we're so conservative with the budget that it shouldn't be that big of a risk. We may not achieve the budget amount, but, if meals tax picked back up and motor vehicle picks back up, which, are budgeted less than they were even this year, we should be fine in aggregate.
All right, good. Any other question, Vikram?
Just to follow up to that, are there any scientific models you follow to predict that, or just
Normally
feel
just,
the market is?
normally just the general media and, our own trends through depressionary or economic downturn times. But, I guess, we, being still about only at 90%, it's a bigger depression than we anticipated in the single year, as far as those revenues go. But, yeah, really just general media and our own trends.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move on to agenda item number 4, which is an act to authorize the chair or the vice chair to sign reserve fund transfers pending ratification at a subsequent July or August meeting.
Would this be for both fiscal years, the one we're finishing, and the one we'd be starting, or are we just gonna let the $3,074 for this fiscal year slide? Okay,
So that's, it would only be for reserve fund transfers for fiscal year 21.
Okay,
2021, the 3,000 we have.
Yes,
I mean,
yeah.
okay, so anything that you came back to us that you would need,
Would have to be-
it's gonna be in the budget, there's no way you're gonna need a reserve fund transfer, unless it was somehow something that wasn't budgeted in the first place.
That's correct, yes.
Have we had that? I mean, is that an issue? We don't need to worry about that.
No, I don't, we brought everything that we could tonight.
Yeah.
I don't foresee any expenses, but, you know, this is kind of a traditional thing that we do just in case we get to year-end closeout, and we have an anomaly, because we do, have to wrap everything up by the end of July, and you normally don't meet.
Right, so are we authorized to use the 21 reserve fund even in the beginning weeks or months of 22?
Yes.
Okay, is there a deadline? Is it the end of July? That's that
Yeah,
deadline?
before we close out, before we close the books, yep.
The end of July,
Yep,
okay.
yep.
Do we need a motion on that?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
I move that we authorize the chair or the vice chair to sign reserve fund transfers pending ratification at a subsequent July or August meeting.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
You know, in past years, I remember we would put a number on that.
Yeah, I was
But
gonna say-
there ain't much in this to begin
So-
with.
So I think it's up to $3,074, so
Okay.
can't go too crazy. All right, so it takes us to agenda item number 5, act to postpone the reorganization of the committee to the next scheduled meeting if there is no July meeting,
I think we should elect the people who aren't here tonight.
right? I had requested that we reorganize tonight, but Kevin told me that we couldn't do that, so.
Can't do it because we don't know who's gonna be on the board next year.
That's what he told me, so I was trying to get myself dethroned, but hey. All right, can I get a motion?
I move that we postpone the reorganization of this committee to the next scheduled meeting, one way or the other. Second.
Okay, it's been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, it passes unanimously. Oops. Okay. I seem to have 2 page ones. Oh, here's page 2. Okay, here we go. Item number 6 is review the meeting schedule. So it says tentatively July 15th.
So this is just the normal third Thursday of the month.
Okay, but we don't anticipate,
Don't
so we
anticipate
should not
business.
plan for that meeting? Is that correct? Okay.
That's correct.
And then, so we should plan for August 19th?
Yep, potentially, yep.
Okay.
And we can reach back out, let you know any business that we would have,
Okay.
and if we need to.
All right. And then, okay, any questions on that? All right, so then that takes us to item number 7, other business. Do we have any other business?
It's nice to be back. That should be official. It's nice to be back.
All right, and then that takes us now to agenda item 8, correspondences. So there's email from Brian Moss regarding fluoride, email from Sanam Zaire regarding the citizens petition for term limits, email from Representative Kane regarding fiscal year 22 budget update, an email from Dr. Sawyer, superintendent of schools, regarding the override ballot question, email from Sandra Fritz, chair of the school committee, regarding the override ballot question. And then we had 3 letters from Bernard Cahill, town planner. One of them was regarding Article 31, one Article 32, and the third was Article 33. Email from Representative Kane regarding extending certain COVID-19 emergency measures, and then a second one from Representative Kane, again, talking about extending certain COVID-19 policies. And then finally, an email from Representative Kane regarding American Jobs Plan update. Okay, so if there's nothing more at this point, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Actually, we're going to do a roll call. Aaron?
Aye.
Vikram?
Aye.
Judy? Aye?
Let me use the raise hand feature.
Please do.
Aye. Aye.
Great. So I declare the meeting adjourned.
Splendid, thank you.
All right.